If I could go back to my 20s, these are the financial milestones I would really try to hit, because your 20s is like the first leg of a relay race. If you run that first leg well, then the other three legs have a good chance of having a good race. But if you fumble that first leg, then the other three legs are trying to make up for what you didn't do in that first leg. Capiche? So knowing what I know now in my 40s, I'm starting my 40s. All for you who is in your 20s, these are the financial milestones you should really go after. There are three things you really want to do in your 20s. You want to get rid of baggage, financially speaking. You want to plant, and you want to live. All three things are equally important. So let's break it down, shall we? In your 20s, you're a product of your upbringing. If you've been raised in an environment where money was always tight, chances are you have a scarcity mindset. Or the opposite. Perhaps because money was always tight when you were growing up, you've decided, you know what, whatever I want, I'm going to get it, gosh darn it. And so you spend whatever money you have to get whatever it is you want, which is also not healthy. Or if you've been raised in an environment where you guys never discussed money, money was never spoken of, now you were not so confident in your knowledge of money and you don't feel empowered to manage your own money. Either way, you are a product of your upbringing. So starting up your 20s, even if you're watching this in your late 20s, what you really want to do is consume a variety of personal finance content. Keyword variety. From paying up debt to building wealth to even frugality. All this will help correct wherever you are when it comes to your relationship with money. If you're leaning too extreme to the scarcity mindset, it will move you a bit closer to the center. Then you just love my active way of explaining things. If you're leaning closer to the left, it moves you. But either way, it's moving you closer to the center. You know, hearing about how people have gotten themselves into debt is a way to, it's almost like a debt insurance. It keeps you from going into debt. Hearing that people can build wealth, people just like you, makes you think big. Hearing about frugality makes you consider your expenses. It teaches you to manage your expenses. Even though investing is probably going over your head, force yourself to listen. Even if it's the basics, podcasts are a great way because you can just put that on while you're doing other things. We have YouTube videos, we have articles. I love reading articles on CNBC, and I'll say thank God for algorithm. You read one and it brings a whole lot more to you, right? Expose yourself to personal finance because it's like a boomerang. It comes back and it helps you with managing your money. Your 20s is a good time to get rid of consumer debt. Now that you have the time, now that you have the energy and less responsibilities, this is a good time to get rid of the consumer debt. You're going to have a lot more responsibilities coming up in your 30s. You're buying house, you're buying car, you're having a family. You're going to have a lot more responsibilities on your money. I understand some of them are too big, like student loan. I'm still paying my student loan. Do you know Obama was still paying his student loan up until he wrote his book? The money he made from the book is what helped him pay off the student loan. So there's no shame in not being able to finish up your student loan. So I'm talking about all the other debts. You know, some of us were foolish in using that credit card you got in college, or some of us, even though you've been hearing do not use credit card, we make mistakes, and so some of us have unnecessary credit card debt. I remember when I spent my first credit card, foolish debt, I should say. It wasn't school related. It wasn't for books. It was to go out with my friends from college. I used it for the very first time after college. We were going out to eat. Lovett did not have a job. Lovett did not have money. Lovett is not asking her mom for money. That's not what we do. You know, my mom had other things to worry about. And so I used my American Express credit card and I felt like a big girl, even though I knew it was wrong. But that was the first time I used my credit card. Some of us make mistakes. This is the best time to take care of it, because what you will find out by late 20s, but at least in your 30s for sure, what you'll find out is the best case scenario is to reduce your monthly expenses. And a great way to reduce your monthly expenses is to take care of this credit card debt that is really a waste of money at this point. You are giving someone else money because you decided to spend your future money. Let's clean up the mistake now so you can start off your 30s with better footing to build. The fun part. 20s is the beginning of your planting season. From now until retirement, you are planting. You're planting financial seeds that will pay you dividends in your 30s, in your 40s, in your 50s, in your 60s, in your... Financial seed you're planting is to become a saver. You must save. Saving is essential. Can you see how passionate I am about saving? Because it shocks me how we're making savings optional. Just like you pay your utility bills every month, saving is essential. And the good thing about your 20s is you get to quote unquote design your life. If you cannot save every month, we have a problem. And you need to fix that problem either by getting a job that pays more, getting a side hustle, a second job, or finding a way to cut down your expenses. I can't sugarcoat it because I can tell you what is sweet to hear, which is, well, or I can be honest with you. Back then when I started, it was a recession. Whatever the reason is, no one cares why you do not have savings. That emergency will happen and you will end up using a credit card, which puts you in a bigger problem, because financial issues, financial problems never starts big. It's always small. You need money for an emergency that came up, you don't have it, so it goes on credit card. And let's be honest, in our 20s, a lot of times it's not even an emergency. It's like in Lova's case, I need to go out with my friends. I'm working hard. I need to spend time with friends. I'll have money to spend time with friends. And so we use a credit card. Well, next month comes around, your expenses equals your income. So you don't have the extra money to pay off that go out with friends money you put on credit card. And so that money builds interest. And just like that, every month it snowballs into bigger problems. And before you know it, you're $8,000 in credit card debt. Bigger problems. If you can get into the habit of saving now, where you don't have to be told or convinced why you should save, your 30s and your 40s is looking good already, because that money you're saving right now is, building enough for emergency fund. But it gets bigger, and as it gets bigger, it goes beyond emergency fund. This becomes down the road your down payment for your home, down the road your car money. So the next time you need a car, you're paying cash. This money, as it's growing, becomes your ticket to wealth, because it takes money to build money. This is money you can invest. This is money you can use to grow your wealth. So saving is, if you take nothing else from this video, in your 20s, save. Another financial seed you will be planting in your 20s is more of a mindset here, but this mindset is what helps you out financially, is to know that everything you buy in your 20s is a starter. Think of it as a starter. When you know that the car you need to buy or the car that you need in your 20s is a starter, then you know it doesn't have to be the fancy car, the best car, right? When you know where you live is just a starter, you're renting a starter, then you don't need to do a condo downtown where it's uber expensive just because you want to live the life, right? Because what we're trying to do in our 20s is make sure we keep our expenses low. You're still going to live, and we'll talk about that. But overall, you want to keep your expenses low, because how else are you going to save if your expenses are high? How else are you going to build that nest egg for building wealth if your expenses are high, right? If you're buying the best car because, hey, I'm in my 20s, I'm now an adult, and I have to look like it, you just throw money away, because I can guarantee you 7 years from now, you're going to be sick of that car. 7 years from now, that heck, you're not even going to last 7 years in that condo, in that apartment. So keep in mind, whatever you are buying right now is a starter. And so do not spend so much. As a lady, though, where I will be honest, where I was like, all right, we need to look right, what's in the clothes, right? And I found ways around that to get affordable clothes. I remember pea coat. I really wanted a pea coat. I had a winter coat though, but the pea coat looked more professional. So I was like, I need it. Well, why am I spending $80 on a pea coat when I have a winter coat and I have credit card that I'm trying to pay off? So that pea coat became when we pay off the credit card, we will treat ourselves to the pea coat, right? So you need to have the mindset that your 20s is your starter, and you need to be okay with that. So what, everyone else is wearing designer. I have the mindset, and which is what you should. Expensive or the high end doesn't necessarily mean the best. And even if it is the best, perhaps this is not the time. It's the 20s. We're building. We're just starting to grow. And so right now, this is where we are. Drugstore makeup is where we are. And as time goes on, we will, graduate to the high end stuff. We're still planting. Another financial seed you want to plant in your 20s, and it's very easy to do, is to make sure you have a good credit score. You want to get a good credit score and keep a good credit score, because your credit score is what determines if you will pay twice as much for the exact same thing someone else is paying a lower amount for, from your car insurance to your rent to your, when you're ready to buy a car, ready to buy a house, even your credit cards, when you want to get a credit card because you want to get those cash backs or those, those points. Your credit score matters. When you're looking for a job, they check your credit. Maintaining a good credit and a good credit score is huge. It will save you a whole lot of money down the road, and not just saving you money, it would give you more opportunities, because if you have a good credit score, you'll be surprised how you'll be treated. When you apply for anything, you would be seen as, all right, we can work with this one, compared to, let's come up with reasons not to work with this one. So it's very easy to do. A big chunk of having a good credit score is to make your payments on time every single month. And let me give you a hack, because I know in your 20s, we're adulting now, and it can hit you hard, because you go from not really having a lot of responsibilities and mommy holding the birth certificate to, now you're responsible for everything, and you have to pay this bill and that bill. And it's very normal, and it's very common that some of us will forget to make payments. We understand. So let me give you a hack. Have a day of the month where you pay everything, regardless of its due date. The beginning of the month. You don't want it to be, say, the 16th of every month. Meanwhile, your utilities is due on the 10th. Now you're late. So beginning of the month. Take a look at your bills. Look at what date works. Say the 2nd of every month. That is when you go ahead and pay everything, regardless of its due date. So you're always, you have that 2nd of the month, I'm paying all my bills. You could use auto pay. That's what a lot of people use. And honestly, that's a great way to do it. So it's out of mind, out of sight, until your checking account is slow, that oh yeah, they've taken the money. I have issues with someone going into my checking account. So I don't like auto pay. So I use bill pay. Bill pay is when you have the bank send them the money. No one is getting into my checking account except the bank. They have my checking account. I'm okay with that. I'm the one sending the money. That's what I would rather do. I'm not comfortable with auto pay, and that's why that wasn't the first thing I said. But if you're okay with auto pay, that's the best way to do it. So your payment is always on time. That will keep a good credit profile and a good credit score. Another way to keep up a good credit profile and a good credit score is to not use up all your available credit. I know your credit line is 5,000 and they said, go ahead, you're free to spend 5,000. But the way these things work, they penalize you for using the full 5,000, because now you're looking a little bit desperate. They want people who, they use the money, but they don't really need it that badly. When you use the entire 5,000, the signal you're sending is, I need this money. I need every single one of it right now. And so because of that, you are a risk. And that brings down your credit score. Once again, I'm just a normal person on YouTube. I am not a professional. So do with this information as you may. I have to give that disclaimer. You do your research and use the information as you may. The main thing, though, and the behavior you want to keep up in your 20s is you want to keep up with your payments. Skipping payment is not being financially sound. It doesn't go away. It's not just going to disappear because you didn't pay it. It will come back, but you owe it. One way or the other, you're paying for it. Don't think because you haven't heard from anyone, no one is bugging you, and so you've outsmarted them. It will come back. And it's not a good way to build your financial life. Remember, your 20s is the first leg of a relay race. That payment you're skipping in your 20s, somehow it shows up in your 30s, and you would have to pay it. Or even if it never shows up and your credit has tanked, it will come back in the fact that you're having to pay more for insurance, you're having to pay more for your car, you're having to pay more for your house. God forbid you have to buy a house and your credit score is super low. You're not going to qualify for a good amount, or your rates will be super high. And with the way it's going, the last thing you want is to have a high rate. So maintain a good credit profile and a good credit score. One of the most important seeds to plant in your 20s is the most overlooked. I know I did, and I regret doing that. The one thing you have in your 20s that you will never get back is time. It is the gold of your 20s. It is the envy of your 20s. It's time. The one place where this time can be harnessed to great wealth is retirement. And I know in your 20s, you're not thinking about retirement. In your 20s, retirement seems so far away, and you're thinking to yourself, I have bigger problems. Retirement will take care of itself down the road. I have bigger problems. And in the future, I'm sure I will hit it big. Some of us were thinking that I'll hit it big and then I can be putting a lot more. I'll make up for it. But listen, you can't plan with best case scenario. You have to plan with things as is and then hope for best case scenario. Retirement is one of those things where if you start in your 20s, you do it with less effort and get maximum benefit down the road, compared to if you start in your 30s, where now you have to do a lot more, put in a lot more effort to get about the same, and sometimes not even up to the same benefit. Look at these numbers. These guys are using the median annual income of $74,580. So let's say this was your income every single year. If starting at age 25, you put away just 5% of that income, by age 65, you would have over $500,000 in retirement. If you saved the same 5%, but starting at age 35, at age 65, you would have less than $300,000 in retirement. Same amount of money, just 10 years difference, and you lose half of that. That's the power of compound interest. I'm not going to go into all that because that's not what this video is about. But what I want you to see is how time buys you more. Less effort over a long period of time, maximum benefit. Do you know what 5% of $74,580 is? Per paycheck, it's only $155. But for a lot of us, your company has some sort of match. And so you end up even having to only contribute half of that. Your company matches the other, because I'm sure your company does at least 2% match. So if you look at this, you're not even going to be putting in $155 every paycheck. You're only going to be putting in $78 every paycheck to get over $500,000. You are not going to miss $78. Now, if you were speaking to Lovett at 25, oh, heck yes, we'll miss $78. That's what I'll be thinking to myself. But you know where Lovett could have made up? Oh, Lovett could have probably used some of bonus, some of tax return, some of the second job she got. If I knew then what I know now about retirement and how compound interest works and how it grows, and how if I can just imagine you make $78 less. And so it's money you do not miss. Right now, I mean, I'll be opening my retirement account every single day, just staring at it. Yeah, does the stock market go up and down? Yes, it does. But we're talking about over 40 years. You have to put something away for retirement. Even if all you're doing is $10, go ahead and do that, because it's the habit. You're exercising that muscle. The more you exercise the muscle of putting money away for retirement, putting money away for savings, the stronger that muscle gets. And so when you get into more money, when you start making more money and you can put some more away, you don't have to be convinced to do so. You understand why you should do so and the benefit of doing so. And you may be thinking, this is a lot I have to do. How much money am I making that I can spread things around? Well, that is why you were going to get a spending plan in your 20s. You can't just spend as you go. You need to have a spending plan. And I've done a video on how to do it without having to account for every single dollar. Figure out what you have left after paying your bills, and the rest, split it. And that's it. You don't have to break it down all the way down to every single dollar. Getting into the habit of having a spending plan is a good way to manage your money. Sometimes we overcomplicate personal finance. That is personal finance. That is a big chunk of it. There's investing and all that, but that is a big chunk of it. Live. This is a fun one because I've been looking forward to having this discussion on camera, because when a lot of people give advice on things to do in 20s, they forget the realistic thing is 20s is when you should have a good time. Because for a lot of us, as we move on into our 30s, families coming in. Some of us already have kids before we get into our 30s, right? But your 30s will demand a lot more of your time and whatnot. So 20s is when you should live it up, so that when you get into the season where you can't just up and go for a weekend away or whatnot, you're not sad and feeling like you're missing out, because you've enjoyed your 20s. In fact, if I could go back to my 20s, this is the one area where I would probably do better, because I was being very responsible in my 20s and doing the right thing with money. If I could go back, I'm going on more trips. I'm taking more trips, because finance is math, but life isn't. It's going to cost money to build relationships. There are ways to do it without spending money, but a good chunk of it is going to cost money. going out with friends, going to concerts, hanging out on a weekend, because you want to go, I don't know, if you're going to a bar, whatever it is you're doing with your friends, or you're going to visit your friends. Something I would have done more is probably get on that train and gone to visit my friends in other states, just hang out with them for the weekend. That's what I would push myself to do. I didn't do it then because, one, we're thinking money, there are better things I can spend that money on. For real, there are better things. Or, two, I'm thinking, I've been working Monday to Friday. This adulting is hard. I just want to be on my couch and just watch TV. No one bother me, because 2 days is not even enough. Okay. But if I could go back knowing what I know now, I would spend that $120 going to visit a friend. I would do it. It's worth it. You know why it's worth it? Because you need those relationships. Those relationships are what enrich your life. I would spend money. I remember that every Sunday, my family, we had this habit of going out to eat. I blame my parents, going out to eat on Sunday afternoons. And so when I was done with school, I was still home and stuff, my siblings will want to go out to eat. And I'm thinking, I'll do the math. $20 for a buffet. Why would I spend $20 when I could use that $20 to buy groceries that would last me for a whole week? Foolishness. I would have done it. Now, how you do it right, so that you don't go all the other extreme, is you plan. So my family likes going out to eat every Sunday. You know what, I love it. We're going out to eat only twice a month, 2 Sundays of the month, or 1. And we plan for that money. We save for that money, right? I ended up taking a second job. It wouldn't have killed me to bring out an extra $20. It wouldn't have killed me to bring out an extra $100 and something to go visit a friend. Now, I put money aside for one vacation every year. That was my plan. But I could have put up some money for some of those other things, because those are the ways you build relationship. And those relationships are priceless in your 30s, in your 40s. And who knows what new relationship, who knows, you may be meeting your spouse that way. The key thing here is to understand that it will never make financial sense to put money aside for fun. But take it from me, a 40-year-old, you need it. Do it. Enjoy your life. Enjoy your money. Live it up. Just to not make the mistake that you have to spend your entire adulthood paying for. Spend your 30s paying for. And how do you avoid that? By having a spending plan. All right. I tried as much as possible to keep this point by point, but it became a lot more conversational. But I hope you got it, because I tried to keep it as real and as honest as possible. I'm still going to do another video about mindsets you should have in your 20s. I think that would really come in handy. But if you've enjoyed any part of this video, you owe me. The fact that you're even here at this point, I shouldn't even convince you. You should be hitting like, you should be hitting subscribe, you should be commenting, you should be doing all 3, because being here at this point means you really had a good time. All right. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye.